I have always been a student of education. For elementary school, we landed here at Bromwell and Cherry Creek. Here I was exposed to amazing teachers like Mrs. Rogoff, Mrs. Weens, Miss Keys, Mrs. Lewis, Mrs. Loftus, Miss Young, and Mr. Rawlinson. It was here I learned about meaningful relationships. For middle school, we attended Montclair Academy. It's now called Denver Montclair International School. Teachers like Mr. Amos, Miss McMurtry, Coach Spriggs, Fish, Mr. Hammerstein, and others developed a love of learning within me. It was at Colorado Academy where high expectations were the standard. Teachers like Mr. Terrazas, Mrs. Myers, Doc Coleman, Coach Pritchard, and Mrs. Jordan made the content relevant, pushed for critical thinking, and this idea of the whole student began to take shape. At the University of Colorado Boulder, where I received my Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration from the Lead School, I took ownership of my education, asked questions, and professors like Raylan Rabaka and Donna Sakel probed for deep dives into critical theories of history, humanity, and social responsibility. Education has been my privilege. So when I decided to teach upon graduation in 2009, a reflection of all teachers who I'd been exposed to became my reference point. I asked questions like, what is the teacher's role? Will I be effective? What am I getting myself into? I had no idea what was in store. This is where my journey as an educator began, teaching second grade in Tulsa, Oklahoma. For 8 hours a day, I taught phonics, reading, writing, math, social studies, and science. I didn't know about educational pedagogy or theory. In that year, I was shoulder to shoulder with other teachers in a system fighting an uphill battle. 2 years later, in my second semester of grad school, did my classroom experience truly come into perspective. Studying traditional schools of thoughts such as conservative, progressive, radical, and spiritual were articulating firsthand the vocabulary and framework of the school system that I had taught in and the school system in which I was reared.
My name is Sam Pegues. I moved to Denver in 1964. I came here because I interviewed and got a contract to work with Denver Public Schools. I've actually taught on all levels. I've been elementary, middle school, junior high school, and college. So I have a wide variety, varied experience. When I was in elementary school was a blast. It was a blast because we knew it was different then than it is now. All of the teachers knew your parents. And if you squirreled around, if you did some goofy stuff, your parents would get a call at night. They just, hey, Miss Pegues, Sam was, and that's it, man. You didn't want that to happen. Now, it's not like that. But if you didn't understand something, teachers would call you in lunchtime, and they work with you. I mean, it was just it was a communal kind of thing. There was a togetherness of people. And when I was in elementary school, the schools were all black. You know, all the students were black. There wasn't any mixed stuff, but they made it interesting. It was fun, and I enjoyed every. In my schooling experience, I did not miss a day of school until I was like a ninth grader. And I missed that day because my mom picked me up to take me to get the pair of shoes, tennis shoes. So I like school, and it was a lot different. You know, the language was different, the actions of kids. It was the difference between night and day. I mean, yeah, we were mischievous sometimes, but when the teacher said sit down, shut up, that's what you did. There wasn't any talking back because you knew that you were going to get a call if you did. One teacher came to me and told me, he said, you know, that is what my expectations are of you because you are a Pegues. And man, that was, you know, hey, and when he was reflecting on what my family was before I went through, well, I knew what my expectation was. You just gotta be smart. Teaching style. Okay, well, your teaching style depends on what kind of individual you are. When you go into education, there has to be a teacher and there has to be students. Okay? Now, a lot of people will do this thing from the standpoint that they come in and try to present material and they know where they're going, but because the kids kind of rebel a little bit, they soften up on them. No. I demand that you get this, and this is what I'm going to give you. I'll back up and give it to you again if you don't understand it, but this is what you need. This is what you need. So I was kind of a person, I was in control of the classroom. I didn't take no stuff. I let the kids know what I'm about. We came to a point, and this was at my first year. On our assignments, we had boys and girls in our class. But the girls went next door. And so the teacher on that side would send me her boys. So I had all boys, and she had all girls. And the classes normally were pretty even. I mean, we're talking anywhere from 30 to 34. And out of a class of 30, there would be 10, 12 girls. But anyway, so the guy that I was working with, in our planning and our trying to plan what we were going to do, we decided to we brought all the classes together and asked them, because there were normally 3 or 4 classes in the gym at one time, brought them all in one time, and said, how do you students want to run this class? Do you want the boys to be over here and the girls over there? Or should we run it as one big group? Just doesn't make any difference. And the kids voted, we want to do it together. Ideal classroom. I think the classes should have like 18 students. Class sizes should be smaller, because with a smaller class size, the teacher has time to give each individual kid the amount of time that he learns about the kid, he learns about his potential, he learns about whether he is succeeding or not. There are a lot of things that you can pick up when you can be one-on-one with a kid. When you got a class of 36, you can't know them. There's no way you can know them all. So you're just you're putting stuff out there for them to grasp, and the only thing that we have to figure out whether they got it or not is how they do on tests. How they do on tests. Wouldn't it be something that if a teacher had enough time to go around and talk to a kid about concepts and things? So you have an aide in there that's talking about the same thing, make an assignment, and then go and start talking to kids to figure out whether you understand these concepts. Then when you get to the end, you can use your knowledge of that person when you're talking to them, plus the knowledge of the test. Most tests are designed right now to weed people out so that everybody doesn't get an A. They said, well, man, you know, everybody got an A. Well, why shouldn't everybody be able to get A? If everybody grasps all the concepts that you're talking about, why should they not be able to get an A? This can be touchy. First of all, the first mistake that we make is that we keep throwing money at the top end of the scale. Well, the kids are already frustrated. They go through, by the third grade, he can't read. He can't do his math. Fourth, fifth, and sixth, you stack it on top of his frustration of being there. Then he's got to go to middle school where his hormones and all these things come into play. So you got frustration squared. Then you send him on to high school where we go, okay, well, we need remedial classes. We need this, we need that, yeah. Okay, I think that model is completely opposite the way I think. I've heard people say, well, we've got to pass him on. We've got to pass him on because he's going to be a big first grader. We'll be a big first grader. But who gives a crap whether he's big or small? I say this. If a kid if he is not ready to read, he may not be ready to read in kindergarten or first grade. Second, third, he should be getting there, right? If he can't read in the second grade, then I say, don't give him one class of reading, give him 2 classes of reading. I think we need to get away from this first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade. I think we need to get kids there, get smaller classes where we can work with them, figure out what's wrong with them. Once you figure it out, if they're not getting it, have them do 2 classes in math. There's no reason why you should have social studies. There's no reason why you should have a lot of these courses that we're giving kids. That stuff can come later on when he can read the newspaper. Well, we got to teach him how to read. We got to teach him how to add his numbers, multiply, subtract. Get him in smaller classes and hold him until he can do it. We've got to make schools more demanding. We've got to hold school longer hours. Well, why don't we do longer hours? We don't do longer hours because you have to pay teachers a bigger salary. Economics are forcing us into the areas to do the things like we do them. There is one basic problem with the way I think Denver runs. They've got all these superintendents, the assistant superintendents, and all these people on the top end that don't have any connection with kids at all. I've never even thought about that. I accepted my job. I did my job when and where I had that job. And I didn't really worry about what that overall thing looked like because I knew that there was no need for me to think about it because you got the board to think about it. They're running the show.